Okay, the last of the installments of this series of 3. I don't know if my pen is working. Oh, it is. Good. Right, we're low on battery there, so let's whiz on through. Okay, so straight line graphs. First point is to find the gradient through each point. So gradient is just how far up do I go every time I go along one step in the x-axis. So for instance, if we just draw out this first one, we can get a feel. So there is a point 1,7, so 1 on the x and 7 on the y, and there is another point at 4 and then 8. Okay, so this one here is 4, 8, and then this point here is 1, 7. So if we draw a little triangle, there we go. Then we've gone from 1 to 4 in the x direction, so that's 3 steps, and we've gone from 7 to 8 in the y direction, so that's 1 up. So it took us 3 steps to just go up 1. So for every 1 step across we went in the x direction, we must only have gone up a third in the y direction, because we have to break up the 1 step up into 3 steps across. Okay, so in general we just describe that as the gradient, which is how far up did I go? 1, and it took 3 steps to get there, so the gradient is a third. Okay, I would always, there is a rule, I think the rule is up here, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's fine as long as you keep the coordinates in the same, so it's going to be the same y and x coordinate, take away the other y and x coordinate, and watch out for negatives. But just a quick triangle each time will do you. So with this one, we start at 8 minus 2. So you can see this one, the triangle is going to go the other way around. So this coordinate point here will be at 8, negative 2. But then there was another point back here at x coordinate 4, or y coordinate 6. So it's more to the left, but it's up. Okay. So we went from 4 to 8, so we went along 4, and in that time we went from 6 to negative 2, so we went down 8, so minus 8. So this time it was minus 8 steps, up or down, so 8 steps down if you like, and it took 4 steps to get there, so then that is negative 2 for every 1, so came down 2 for every 1 I went along. And then finally, for this last one here, minus 8 to minus 4, and 7 to minus 7. So again, we're coming down as we go along. And it's good to picture them, to draw them out, just so you get a feel relatively where they would be and whether it would be positive or negative. So negative 8, 7. And then this one's negative 4, so more to the right. That's left on the screen, isn't it? Negative 4 there, and it's gone down to negative 7 in the y direction. So we've gone from negative 8 to negative 4, so we've taken 4 steps along. And we've gone from 7 to negative 7, so we've gone in that time 14 down. So we've gone 14 down in 4 steps along. So we just simplify it. It's really better to leave it as a fraction. So we get minus 7 over 2. Okay, so that's that bit done. Now on distances between points. Now what's nice about this is exactly the same picture will get you the answer for this one. Okay, so what you were doing before, so we'll do a relative picture. So we'll take this point here at 5, 2, and this point which is further along in the x and also up in the y, so 7, 4. Draw our triangle. So we have 4 to 7, so we've gone 2 along, and gone 2 to 4, so we've gone 2 up. So then I said just do some Pythagoras on this, which of course will give us the distance between the 2 points along that hypotenuse there. We do 2 squared plus 2 squared, and then square root of the answer, so 4 plus 4 is 8. So it's the square root of 8, and we may as well continue with our work on surds by calling this root 4 times root 2, which equals 2 root 2. Okay, and then let's just do one more. Let's do this one here. It's a little bit trickier. So we're at root 2, 4, and 4 root 2. So 4 root 2 must be further along in the x direction, more positive if you like, a bigger number. And here we've gone from 4 to negative 5, so we've come down. Okay, so if we roughly drew this on an axis, so we've got root 2, 4, which let's say is about here. Okay, and then the other part is at 4 root 2, negative 5. Let's put that down here. 4 root 2, negative 5. Okay, so we draw our triangle. So you can see how they work in questions like surds into this topic here, which is finding distances. So we've gone from root 2 root 2 to 4 root 2. So we've gone along 2 root 2 in the x direction, so 4 root 2 take away root 2. And we've gone from 4 down to -5, so that's 9. This time the negative sign doesn't really matter because it's just a length, it's not indicating gradient, so we can just put a 9 here. Okay. So then we've got if we did Pythagoras now on this triangle, we've got 2 root 2 all squared plus 9 squared, and then we want to square root that. Okay. Now we'll stick with that calculator for now. So 2 root 2 squared. So just like with the indices work, you just square everything in that bracket. So 2 squared is 4, and then root 2 squared is back to 2. So now you've got 4 times 2, which you can write as 8, plus 81. So now we're talking about the square root of 89. And again, we'll just leave it there in that exact form. Okay. Now we want the midpoint. Calculate the midpoint of the line segment between each points. Okay, well again, rough drawing. So we start at 1, 9, that's up here, and then we go along 1 and we get down slightly to 2, 5, and we want the midpoint of that point there. So the midpoint of any 2 points is just halfway between, so we drew the triangle again, it's like similar triangles. We get halfway along in the x and halfway along the y, and we'll get halfway along in this hypotenuse. So halfway between 1 and 2 obviously is 1, and halfway between 9 and 5, so if we're not sure, we can just simply add the two numbers together, 9 add 5, and then divide it by 2, so we get 14 over 2, which gives us 7, so we get 1/7 the coordinates. So you want the halfway point between any two numbers, just add them, divide by 2, it's like finding the average. Okay. In general then we don't really need a diagram for this one, so we can just say, okay, so the x coordinate will be for this one 6.4 plus minus 2.6 divided by 2, and the y coordinate for this one will be minus 9.3 plus minus 3.7 divided by 2. So you just pick up a calculator, add those numbers, and divide by 2, then you'll get the midpoint there. Okay. Right, work out the gradient and the y-intercept. So gradient and y-intercept are easy if the equational line is in the form y equals mx plus c. So that gives us an objective. We just have to rearrange any of these into this format. So for the first one, we could rewrite it as y equals minus 2x plus 8, although I'm sure you could spot from that form anyway what the gradient and the y-intercept were. So the gradient is the number in front of x, it's how much it goes up every time we go along one, and 8 is the y-intercept, that's the start point when x is 0. So our m equals -2, and our c equals 8 for that one. So for this one, to rearrange into this form, we want to take away x, so we get 2y equals 3 minus x, and we want 1y, so we divide by 2, so y equals, and I'll rearrange this as well, minus x divided by 2 plus 3 divided by 2. So what's our gradient? Our gradient is -1/2, that's what that represents there, so negative, because it's -1x. And then our y-intercept is 3 over 2, and then finally for this one, we'll leave the 6x and -4 on the left hand side, we'll add the 9y, so we get 6x minus 4 equals 9y, we'll divide by 9, so we'll get 6 over 9, x minus 4 over 9 equals y, so our gradient m is 6 over 9, or 2 over 3, and c equals -4 over 9. Okay. And then finally, find the equational line. Is it finally? No, not quite finally. So find the equational line through each of these points. I'll probably go to another video. So if we return now to this idea that we just need to fill out y equals mx plus b, c plus an equation for a straight line. Email from Spanish on that. So I've got no other friends, obviously. Right, so if we drew it out, let's have a look. So we're at 3, 7 and 2, 9. So we'll do 2, 9 first, that comes first. So 2, 9's here, and then 3, 7's here. Oh, here, let's say. Okay, so there we go. So let's see what's happened to that straight line. Well, we've gone from 2 to 3 in the x, we've gone along 1, and we've gone from 9 to 7 in the y, so we've come down 2. So straight away, going back to our thinking about our definition of the gradient, we can say that our gradient is -2, because it went down 2 in the time it took me to go along 1. Okay. What's our y-intercept there? Well, we're just trying to fill out y equals mx plus c, and so far we figure out the gradient, so we've got y equals -2x plus c, and we'll go to a second video.